I have no idea what happened to the house.
I'm too young for that.
Yes, well, so am I.
We're way too young for that, Kathy.
Here's another one for you. 141 in Manchester. If you were going southbound years ago, before they did all the widening there was a house and it was pink.
Pink?
It was pink. I seen, which I don't
I think of
there's.
Mary Kay Cosmetics
Yeah.
when I think of the pink Cadillacs. The pink.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's Kathy Helbig. She's the owner of Experience Realty Partners and the Kathy Helbig Group joining us. So I don't suppose there's much call for pink houses in the world today.
Not a lot, but every once in a while you will run across one that is very unique, and it will only sell because of its uniqueness, but it's also passed up by multitudes of people because it's a little bit too
I
unique.
want you to get in touch with Kathy simply so you can look at her fingernails and her toenails today. She's
This would
got
be
these.
unique. Don't
These
hide
are
your house
really.
like this.
I don't think I've
Color.
ever. What is this called?
It's chrome. It's called chrome. It's real chrome.
Seriously.
Yes, pretty cool.
Yes,
It
it's
is very
nice.
nice looking.
cool.
And you had
Yes.
your feet done as well that way? Or toes?
I do.
Toes, not
I
feet.
do.
That's pretty.
Styling, Gotta
Got-
stay
she's
in style when
Always,
you're in all these
Kathy
beautiful
Helbig
homes.
always looks
You
gorgeous
got
in
it
the morning.
because it's your business.
It is my
I can dress
business.
like a schlub because I'm on the radio, except for Facebook.
No,
and-
because people could see us.
No scrubs allowed.
Yeah, well, you look better than I do this morning.
Well,
that's for
I'm
sure.
really, I don't dress.
Yes.
I'm very casual.
Well,
Last time you and I chatted, we were talking about how hot the market was, especially if you were trying to sell a property that you were going to get you're going to
Right.
get bites right away.
Right.
That house, a couple of houses up from where I live, I talked to the lady. She and her husband are getting ready. I mean, they are have done a complete rehab. They got a really good price on it because the people wanted to move the house.
Right.
It sold like that.
Yes.
And they've done all the work. I actually had to drop something off, and I walked inside. I was amazed. I mean, they took all the carpeting out, put hardwood flooring in. They were redoing the kitchen. I mean,
well, that's how you're going to
really?
get top dollar in this market.
I
And
like how you say you had to drop something off.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
wanted to
I
see
did.
their house
And
live.
here's the embarrassing part.
It's called the nosy neighbor envelope.
Well, and the guys, the owners weren't there, and the guys were saying, "If you want to walk around," I said, I'm not going to do that. That's that's not an appropriate thing for me to do, to do that
You should
kind
have
of
slid
thing.
my sign in their yard.
Yeah, just stick a Kathy Helbig sign
Then I
there.
can go in there and show it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'd known I would have steered the business your way if I could have. I tell you what, if I find another one that's going up there.
Come on, wait for your phone call.
Oh, here's another one. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place on this. I know.
because I'm sure-
There's this huge house on
okay.
Clayton Road that I've talked about before. It's got a for sale sign in front of it.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be for sale. I thought it was a family moving into this thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
All right,
no.
all
There's
right,
some
we'll-
big houses in St. Louis.
All right, let's
yeah,
get
they're
on
right.
topic
Houses.
here. What have you got for
We'll
us this
talk
morning?
about a quick little boring subject that's earnest money, because earnest money is something that a lot of people misunderstand. And a lot of times people think when you're writing an offer that you're going to be more favorable if you put in a really big earnest money deposit. And there are definitely pros and cons to that. So yes, it can make you look more serious, but it's not always necessary either. So you have to weigh out, as the buyer that's putting that money up, how much more favorable is this making me look versus how much money am I risking that I could possibly be leaving on the table if something fell apart? Because earnest money is not an automatic, I get it back type thing. And not everybody understands that. And on the flip side, a lot of people think, well, if I put earnest money down and then something comes up on the inspections, I would lose my earnest money. That's also false. So there are a lot of provisions in the contract that protect earnest money, but there's also, if there's not a provision and someone faults from the contract or does not go through with their obligations, then the earnest money is at risk. But what the sellers don't always understand is you don't automatically get it when the buyer defaults either. So earnest money kind of sits in nomad land for a little while. It's held in escrow by either one of the brokerages of the real estate company or the title company. And if there is a dispute, then it typically has to go to the courts for the courts to decide how the earnest money is going to be distributed. So somebody that just didn't show up at your closing and you're like, hey man, I'm keeping their $10,000 earnest money. You have a case for it, but you don't just automatically get to go to the title company and say, hand me that earnest money. I deserve it now.
Is there a way to find out, not unlike if you're working with a realtor and they're going to provide you with information about selling prices in the area you're interested in, is there a way to find out what on average earnest monies have been posted, or is that just between buyers and sellers? And
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's not a public recorded
Oh,
thing.
okay, all right.
Yes,
So no
exactly.
way to figure
but
that out.
Just the standards, so you know, the typical earnest money amount is about 1% of what the purchase price is on the house that you're buying.
Okay.
So try to factor in about that. You can give a little bit more, again, to look more favorable, because you're looking like, hey, I'm, instead of willing to risk $1,000, I'll put my $5,000 on the line, so that you know that if I got squirrely and I walked off, I'm looking at leaving $5,000 sitting there instead of $1,000.
And so it's not written in a contract, in every contract.
Well, it's in every contract that the buyer is due their earnest money back if something fails for some particular reason. But if it's not a covered area, which there's a lot of gray things that happen in real estate, or it is a covered area but your buyer says, I don't care, I'm not closing anyway. Those are when you start getting off of what the normal rules are for disbursement. But the problem is, even though the contract specifically says, yes, you are owed the money, because a third party's holding it, the third party goes, I don't want to be part of the decision-making process, so now we're going to send it to court and let court decide.
Last thing before we go. Here it is. It's May the 10th. This is the time that, frankly, I see a lot of for sale signs. They're not up for very long, given what you've told us before, because school is letting out and people, if they're going to make a move.
Tis the season.
Does this slow down? And if it does slow down, when do you, just
This
guessing?
is actually becoming the peak. So
Right. Okay.
May and June, we're going to see the peak of activity on the market. And then towards the middle to end of July is when a lot of those people have already made their moves. And we'll
Yeah.
start to see a little bit less inventory coming on. But there's still buyers out there waiting for the right houses, because this year, even more than the last 2 years, have had less inventory to pick from. So there are buyers just ready to jump on the right house and the right deal. So
If you want to get in touch with
Call
Kathy
us.
Helbig, here's how you do it. 314-276-SOLD or KathyHelbigGroup.com.
that's it.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
coming by.
Kathy, as
Good to
always.